Deion Sanders and Colorado didn't even play this past weekend, yet they still dominated the bye week.
You are Locked On Buffs, your daily podcast on the Colorado Buffaloes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? This is Locked On Buffs. I am your host, Kevin Bohr. But today's episode is brought to you by our sponsors over at FanDuel. You could start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers could place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. We are also brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day for free and available wherever you get your podcast. So thank you for making me your first listen of the day. Let's dive right into it. The Colorado Buffaloes had an off week, right? They'd been riding high anyway before the off week. They had come off a huge win. They're 6-2, and everyone's like, oh, maybe they can contend, right? Everyone's like, maybe this Colorado team isn't as bad as we thought they were. They jumped into the top 25 last week. After beating Cincinnati. They blew out Cincinnati 34-23, kind of controlled that game. Go to the bye week, and I talked about it on my episode before week 10. I was like, you know what? This is what Colorado needs to happen, and a lot of those things happened. So the Colorado Buffaloes find themselves in clear playoff contending. The Colorado Buffaloes, let me put it this way. The Colorado Buffaloes find themselves with a prime path to the Big 12 title game and a path to the college football playoff. Number 3, Penn State. Number 10, Texas A&M. Number 11, Clemson. Number 11, Iowa State. That's not a typo. They tied. They were tied in the rankings. Number 17, Kansas State. Number 18, Pitt. Number 24, Illinois. They all lost. Why does that matter? Because, one, Iowa State and Kansas State were in the mix for the Big 12 title game. And now, they're still in the mix, but Colorado now has a better shot at making it to the Big 12 title game, which is the easiest way to ensure their path to the Big 12 title. The college football playoff. The Big 12 standings now go as follows: BYU number 1, Iowa State number 2, Colorado number 3, and then Kansas State, Texas Tech, Cincinnati. There's too many teams that are in contention for the Big 12 or the Big 12 title game right now, mathematically at least. But this past weekend for Colorado, I don't know if anyone in college football had a better weekend than the Buffs. Deion Sanders, he got to go home, do some fishing, relax a little bit. Shedeur Sanders, I think, without even playing, people continue to realize that he's probably the best quarterback in the country, just the most consistent, makes the least amount of mistakes. Travis Hunter got to do some Heisman campaigning. And thanks to all the losses from all the ranked teams, the Colorado Buffaloes are now nationally viewed as a college football playoff contender, a Big 12 title contender, which is something that we've been talking about here on the program for quite some time. But now I think more people around college football are starting to realize it. If you look at how someone wins the bye week, right? Usually it's like you get healthy, you work out the kinks. It's like, oh, we had this issue on this offensive set, or we had this issue on defense where we kept getting in the wrong package, or we weren't substituting quick enough. Colorado won the bye week by simply just handling business when they played and then letting the rest fall into place, right? And just because Colorado wins this bye week, and let me preface this, because I know this is probably where people are going to be like, what the heck? Why are you being negative? This isn't me being negative. The Colorado Buffaloes dominated the bye week by handling business prior to the bye week. Correct? Correct. However, they still have to handle business the rest of the season. A loss in conference play may likely eliminate them from Big 12 title contention, which in effect, if they get that third loss, I don't think there's a chance that they make it to the college football playoffs. So they have to win out. They have a very manageable schedule. They're favored against Texas Tech, which I'll get to a little bit later. Utah after that, Kansas after that, and Oklahoma State. Very favorable schedule. But again, you can't count your eggs before they've hatched, right? That's the good old saying. Colorado still has to win these games. Just because all of these things happen in week 10 doesn't mean that Colorado is now guaranteed a spot in the Big 12 title game or guaranteed a spot in the college football playoff. You still have to win these games. You still have to show up. And I think what we've seen a lot from this team this year, as opposed to last year's team that started off really hot 3-0 and then face planted, this year's team so far has not bought into the hype of themselves, right? They have not allowed the social media buzz, the social media frenzy to sort of influence how they feel, how they play, right? They were blown out by Nebraska week 2. And if they listened to social media like they would have last year, they probably would have went on a losing streak. They regrouped, figure out what they needed to change. Same thing, Kansas State. They lose that game. They fumble it away. I think they should have won that game, right? They bounce back and win their next two by double digits. This Colorado team is all about focusing on the task at hand. And I think that's one of the biggest differences from last year. Because if you guys remember, after they blew that 29-0 lead against Stanford, one of the videos that went insanely viral, I talked about it, I wrote about it, was Coach Prime talking to the team in the locker room after the game saying, all that love you've been receiving on social media, that's all gone. That is all gone. And I think everyone wants to think that players, athletes, coaches, whatever, they want to think like, oh, this doesn't affect them. They won't see what I'm posting. Clearly, it does affect these players, right? Trayvon Diggs, prime example. That dude like sprinted to the locker room, checked his phone for his mentions, and all of a sudden was ready to beef with a reporter. Like these players, they do check what happens on social media. But I think Coach Prime and his coaching staff are doing a fantastic job of keeping them focused on IRL in real life, right? You cannot be focused on what Go Buffs user 35 has to say. You have to be focused on what Coach Warren Sapp has to say, or Coach Deion Sanders, Pat Shermer, because they are trying to set this team up to make a run. And this team is as poised as anyone in the country to make a major run right now. Colorado has a great shot of going from 4-8 last year to from 10-2 this year, which would be a major turnaround for Deion Sanders. And like I said, people need to start giving him props. But this Colorado team, they have a chance to make a statement. And the bye week, a lot of things win their favor. I think we could all agree they won the bye week, but now they have to win the rest of the season. And that's going to be the most important sort of test for this Colorado team is like, can they handle the job? Can they finish the job, right? It's all about finishing in every aspect of life, in basketball, football, baseball, personal life, if you know what I mean. Like, it's all about finishing the task at hand. Can they do it? We'll just wait and see. I think they could do it, though. When we come back, Shedeur Sanders kind of made his plans for the future very clear. This episode of Locked on Buffs is brought to you by our sponsors over at 5 Hour Energy. Our friends over at 5 Hour Energy know that being a passionate football fan isn't just a hobby, it's a way of life. It takes a lot of energy to power through all-day tailgates, touchdown celebrations, or an agonizing second overtime, which is why they've created a Stand the Fan 5-Hour Energy Shot with a special flavor called Fan Fuel. The energy shot made just for super fans like us, the fans who are first in the parking lot and who are last to leave. We see you. 5 Hour Energy knows that no matter what team you root for, being a fan requires heart, soul, and a lot of energy. Whether you're prepping for the big tailgate or ironing your jersey, your game day to-do list is always a mile long. That's why the limited edition Stand the Fan 5-Hour Energy Shot is here to help you keep you fueled throughout the season. What's your fan fuel this week? Whatever it is, do it with a 5-Hour Energy, available on 5hourenergy.com, shipped nationwide. Welcome back to Locked on Buffs. I appreciate you guys for tuning in every single day, making me your first listen of the day, making me a part of your daily routine. I want to say I appreciate all the support that you guys give me. We're continuing to grow this channel. I really would love to get to 7,000 subscribers by the end of the season, and we're over 6,000 now. So appreciate all you guys. Wouldn't be able to do it without you. If you're never there, make sure to comment so I could give you your props below. Also, if you want a question or comment addressed during my Friday mailbags, make sure to comment that below as well so we could discuss it. Let's dive into Shedeur Sanders' latest comments. It was in a recent well-off media video, and practice is breaking, and the coaches are like, good job, blah, 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 whatever. And then the coach says, hey, reminder, 8:30 a.m. registration. Don't miss it. Don't be late, right? And for those of you who are maybe don't remember those days, or maybe I don't know how you guys registered for college back in the day. I had a window. Did you guys have a window where it's like you go online and be like, okay, you have this window, you can register for this many classes? Regardless, I don't know what you guys did, but that's how it's done now, or at least that's how it was done back in my day, back in class of 2020. But the Colorado Buffaloes are clearly signing up for their spring semester classes, or maybe even winter semester classes. And the coach was like, hey, 8:30 check-in or 8:30 a.m. register for those classes. Don't forget. And then Shedeur Sanders, he could be heard going, 8:30 registration for what? And one confused teammate who I'm glad Shedeur asked this question because I'm sure he knew, but I think he probably wanted to get a little joke in. One teammate was like, the election, and they were like, registration for classes. And the other guy was like, oh, so they're registering for classes. And Shedeur Sanders all of a sudden is looking at the camera and goes, oh man, I'm going to the league. And then I think it was, I forgot who it was. They like joked with him and they're like, yeah, Shedeur's coming back next year. Make sure to register for classes. And he goes, do not wish that on me, man. Hey, registration. I know that after that last game, y'all are not going to see me. And I mean, I think we already knew that Shedeur was going to go to the NFL, but this obviously just confirms it. And I wanted to talk about that a little bit because believe it or not, there are some fans out there that are very wishful and are like very hopeful. And they're like, you know what? Shedeur Sanders might run it back for his senior year with his dad. One more run. Like, let's just do it. And like, he'll do it. He'll do it. Shedeur Sanders, barring like a absolutely catastrophic collapse in these final few weeks, is going to the NFL. And CBS Sports' latest mock draft, it literally went Cam Ward, number 1, Shedeur Sanders, number 2 to the Tennessee Titans. Shedeur has done everything he has needed to do at the college level. I think he's accomplished everything he's needed to accomplish. And now it's after this season, it'll be time for him to move on, right? As fans, we should want to see all these guys grow. We should all want to see these guys move on to the next level. And being able to do that, being able to move on to the next level is their dream. And quite frankly, for Shedeur Sanders, I just don't know what returning would do for him, right? He ranks top 10 in passing yards. He's top 10 in completion percentage, top 10 in touchdowns. Like, he is among the college football stars or giants in every statistical category. This season, compared to last season, I think he's going to blow his stats out of the water. He's already completed 220 passes. He's averaging, or he has a career high 73.3% completion percentage, which was better than his 70.6% completion percentage at Jackson State. He's thrown for 2,500 yards, almost 6,000 yards. And I think at his pace, he'll probably surpass last year's 3,230 yards. He's averaging his highest average yards per completion at 8.6. And then touchdowns, he's at 21, which is 6 less than last year. And I think he's well on his way to breaking that. Sacks-wise, he's only been sacked 25 times a game, or 25 times a game. That'd be insane. 25 times this season, which, I mean, 25 divided by 8 is a little more than 3. So if you multiply that by 3 more, he's probably not going to be sacked as much, I don't think, right? Like, sacked 52 times this past year, 25 divided by 8, that's 3.1. We'll say 3 times a game. So that's 12 more sacks. So he's on pace to be sacked 47 times, which, I mean, it's less, which last year, all of last season, I said he just needs an average offensive line and he'll be putting up huge numbers. And so I think Shedeur Sanders, I mean, I'm fairly confident that Shedeur Sanders will be going off to the NFL. And so my message to Colorado fans is enjoy whatever happens next, right? Enjoy his final few games, enjoy his final moments as a college career, and enjoy the connection between his brothers. I mean, Bucky's out there too as well. Shiloh, Coach Prime, enjoy the connection that we see, because obviously they're all going to move on into different aspects of life, and sort of Colorado, I'm sure they'll come back, but Colorado's a big part of their life, but there's life after Colorado, and Shedeur Sanders is going to the NFL. He kind of just confirmed it as if we already didn't know, but I'm happy for him. Can't wait to see how he does. When we come back, I'm going to be previewing the Texas Tech game a little bit and telling you what I think will happen. This episode of Locked on Buffs is brought to you by FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can bet $5, get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Let's talk about it. We're previewing the game on Saturday. I'm going to tell you everything you need to know, and then I'm going to give you my pick like I used to do every Monday, or as I do every Monday, I mean. So here's everything that we need to know about the game. Lubbock, Texas. It's going to kick off at, I think they're Central Time, so 3 p.m. their time. Colorado comes into the game as 3.5-point favorites. They opened as 3-point favorites, so clearly the line is moving towards Colorado. ESPN's matchup predictor gives them a 63.8% chance of winning. And then weather-wise, it's going to be 64 and sunny, so not too bad, right? What do we need to know about this Texas Tech team? Well, they've kind of been all over the board, right? They go on a streak where they this is Texas Tech's season in a nutshell. It's been unpredictable AF. So week 1, they need overtime to beat Abilene Christian. Week 2, they get blown out by Pac-2 member Washington State. Then they put up 66 on North Texas. Then they beat Arizona State, who's a really good team. They beat Cincinnati, who's a decent team. They beat Arizona, who's not as good. And then it's like, okay, they're rolling. And then they get blown out by Baylor, who at the time was like, Baylor's not that good, right? Colorado had just beaten them, and Baylor hung 59 on them. Then they lose a close one to TCU, and now they pull off a 1-point upset win against Iowa State. Needless to say, this team is very unpredictable. What I do know about this team is their passing defense, atrocious, but their quarterback, Baron Morton, even if his numbers don't always look the best, like this past weekend, 21 of 40, 237 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks, he had some timely big throws. And he was clutch, right? He was very clutch. Just to sort of summarize, their final drive was a 12-play, 71-yard drive. And he had a few big completions. He had a completion to Josh Kelly for 13 yards. That was pretty big. Josh Kelly is his favorite target, by the way. If you guys didn't know that, know the name. Josh Kelly from Washington State is who he's going to be looking out for. He had a huge couple passes that were really changed the game for them. And then Taj Brooks as well. Electric running back. Maybe the best running back in the Big 12. He's record-breaking. He's a senior. This is his 5th season. He's already at 1,000 yards rushing, 10 touchdowns, 5.1 yards per carry. Over his past few games, he's been on an absolute tear. 122 against Iowa State, 121 against TCU, 125 against Baylor, 128 against Arizona, 172 against Cincinnati. Like Taj Brooks, he gets it done. Defensively, I don't think they could stop them. So if this game's close, I think, first of all, I'm going to do my prediction right now. I think Colorado wins this game. I think it's going to be closer than it's going to be a little close for comfort. I think I'm probably going to go 35, maybe 29 or 28, right? I think that's going to be a closer game. I think it's going to come down to the very end. I think this will be a great test for Colorado's secondary. Colorado's secondary is really good. Let me preface that. That being said, Texas Tech will air that thing out, and they will hit. Like Josh Kelly's a great receiver. Baron Morton is a serviceable quarterback, and they also have, which they haven't used him very much, but they have a tight end by the name of Jalen Conyers, who I really liked last year at Arizona State. They have a receiver by the name of Micah Hudson, who hasn't done much in quite some time, but he's a 5-star. You never know when he's going to pop up. And then Caleb Douglas, 6'4". He's a monster receiver. He's put up numbers as well. 44 catches for 600 yards, 4 touchdowns. So they have plenty of playmakers. And so there's not just one guy that Colorado could focus on, because then someone else will hurt you. So I think it'll be a great test. I do think Colorado wins this game, and I think they survive. If Colorado loses this game, it's because they didn't stop Taj Brooks, which, I mean, Colorado hasn't had issues stopping the run in quite some time. And it means that they weren't able to take advantage of this Texas Tech secondary. So that's what I think will happen. I do think Colorado wins this game to advance to 7-2, which would be huge. Obviously, tomorrow, Tuesday, college football playoff rankings come out. So Colorado's ranked number 21 on the year. That only matters until the college football playoff rankings come out, and then the AP poll will not matter the rest of the season. But I do like how Colorado stands. Or I like where they stand with this final few games, and I do think that they have a great shot to make some noise against Texas Tech this weekend, who, honestly, I look at Colorado's last 4 games. This is their toughest game. So if they can handle business here, I don't think they're going to be tested as much the rest of the way. So we'll just have to wait and see how the Buffs end up doing. I appreciate you guys for tuning in to Locked On Buffs, making me your first listen of the day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure to like, subscribe, and follow. Again, follow me on Twitter at Kevin_Borba, and then follow the show's Twitter as well, or X platform, if you will, at Locked On Buffs. We got you covered with all things that you guys need to know about Colorado every single day. We're free and available wherever you get your listen. This has been another episode of Locked On Buffs.